Good evening, everyone. This is Torri waiting for Carolyn from our Harvesting Wealth. I think you guys are really going to like our conversation today, which is Educative Tuesdays. And just to let you know really quick, we're going to be talking about the college admissions process and financial planning. Now is the perfect time to have this conversation because we need to focus on budgeting, and also just because we are dealing with the global pandemic does not mean that our education stops, that our educational and career goals stops, but we just have to work a little bit more harder towards our goals, and finances is definitely one of them. So I think you're going to love our conversation. We're going to give you some tips on how to save for college and when to save for college, because I think that is something very important. I've spoken to a lot of people and I've heard them say, oh, well, my kid is only a freshman in high school, or my kid is only in 7th grade. Spoiler alert, that is the time when you should be saving for college, and really way before then. But I'm not going to give it all away now because we're going to wait for Carolyn, our accountant and financial advisor and expert, to give you the information that you need. And even if you do have a student that's currently in high school, that doesn't mean that you can't start saving now. Or if you're currently enrolled in college, that still doesn't mean that you can't start saving now. It's never too late to save. So let's just wait for Carolyn to hop on, and then we can get this started. Hey, Tanya, I see you. It's definitely time to start saving for DJ. And we have Tanya on the call with us, and well, the chat rather, not the call. And we're actually going to be having a chat with her to talk about medical coding and continuing education. So we'll definitely look forward to that. And hey, Uncle Greg, and I see that we have Carolyn here. So let's add her. Of course, I forgot how to send the request. Let me see. Hold on. Here we go.
Hi.
Hello. Can you hear me really good, everybody?
Yeah, I can.
Okay, perfect. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing well. I'm excited about this call. Super excited. So I see that we have 2 people on. Do you want to wait, or you just want to hop right on in?
It's up to you. It's your show. I'm just joining in.
It's both of our show. It is both of our show. So I'm going to say let's just dive on in. And
Okay.
What I want to do first is I want to tell everybody about EduConfidence Consulting and about Harvesting Wealth. And I'll start first. And so I am the founder and educational consultant for EduConfidence Consulting. And I started my business as a result of realizing a lot of college students need one-on-one coaching, whether they're currently enrolled in college or they're in the process of the college admissions process. And a lot of times when you're going through the admissions office or you have an advisor in college, you don't really get that one-on-one and customized attention that you need. And that's mainly because there are hundreds and maybe thousands of students that they have to serve. So you're really on a time frame and a limit. Like, okay, you get maybe 15 minutes max, and that's it. And a lot of times that's not enough time for you to be able to figure out what your next steps are. So EduConfidence Consulting definitely helps you with the entire college admissions process, starting really from middle school up until when you're in high school and pretty much your senior year in high school. And our main focus is confidence. That's where the name comes into EduConfidence. A lot of students and families are not motivated. They don't feel confident throughout the process for a lot of reasons. One can be because of their grades. They may not have the best grades, or they may not be great test takers. So that means the ACT or the SAT may be quite challenging for them. And most importantly, finances. That's one thing that can really discourage a lot of families and students from wanting to further their education because they just don't have the funds for it. So that is where my good friend Carolyn comes into play. So I'm going to turn it over to you and let you tell everyone about Harvesting Wealth.
Well, hello everyone. My name is Carolyn Powell, and I am the owner of Harvesting Wealth. And Harvesting Wealth came about 7 years ago, and the business was formed with the intention of mine to help people with financial literacy, learn the basics and foundations of how money works and how money can work for them. And since then, the business has grown, and we have a couple extra different services. Also offer accounting, bookkeeping, and also tax prep. So since then, like I said, it has grown a little bit, and it still has the same mission and focus in mind, which is helping people manage their money and also give them the confidence to be able to manage their money well. So not even just like the simple things like a budget and saving and debt, but also looking at it from a different standpoint of just making sure you change your mindset, and also not even just managing it, but also having your money work for you. So in different avenues, and also working with kids as well, trying to get them in at a younger age so that they don't have to make different decisions when they get older, because they have the knowledge in middle school or in high school. So there's so many people that wish they would have learned certain things at a younger age, and I'm one of them. I wish I would have known a little bit more at a younger age myself. So I'm just trying to bridge the gap in our communities, and just show people that, everyone probably needs a little bit of help when it comes to it, and you don't have to be ashamed to ask for help or try to figure out certain things. So that's how Harvesting Wealth came about, and I love what I do. I love helping people with their finances.
So one thing that you mentioned I see we have in common is confidence. So in my last live, I told everyone that for the most part, everyone that I bring onto the live, I have utilized their service. And Carolyn is another person. Carolyn was my financial advisor. Now, it takes time
Yes,
to
it does.
really save, to budget, and it requires discipline. That I will
Yes.
say. But when you really want to do something, you will follow that plan, that budget, and you will ultimately reach your goal. But it is not easy, because I know for myself, I'm a big spender. And so that was one of my weaknesses, was spending money. And she actually helped me come up with a plan and a budget that helped at the time
Yeah.
for me to really be able to save my money. And this is really important for a lot of families, especially now during the pandemic. And that's why I really wanted to have this conversation now, because I think a lot of families are living paycheck to paycheck on a regular basis, and especially now during the pandemic. And so it's kind of like, well, how do I save just to put food on my table and pay my rent and my mortgage, but then also for myself to go to college or for my child to go to college? So that is quite challenging for a lot of families. So my first question to you is, Carolyn, what is the appropriate age for people to start saving for college?
Um, Honestly, ASAP. Like, and it's crazy is because it's like, well, what if I don't even have kids? Like, if you ever think that you want to have kids, like, I feel like your financial plan should always not just be in the now, but for the future. So we'll get into 529 plans and different things like that. I wouldn't say like invest in something like that and get like a 529 plan. But what I am saying is that I would definitely start putting money away as soon as possible if you feel like this is something that you want to do. Because there's college continues to increase, right? We know that. And there's so many other added costs to tuition and fees. There's so many other things that go along with that. So I honestly say, as soon as you feel like this is what you want to do, then that's what you need to do. It is never, ever, ever too early. Like, ever.
I agree.
Like for me, I have no kids, but I keep a family in mind. I know I want to be married and have kids one day. So when I'm creating my financial plan and talking about savings and putting stuff in my goals, it may not say kids, but I definitely am putting something away for the future. Like, I know for me that when my kids go to school, it's something that I want to be able to pay for. I don't want any of my kids to have student loans. That's something that they won't have. That's what I'm speaking over them, and I don't even have them.
Speaking into existence now.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
I definitely agree. It's never too early. I know for me, when the moment I was born, my mother said, and she's on here with us now, she said, you're going to college. I may have not really known what college was at the time, but I knew that I had to go. So when I became of the age that I knew I had to go to college, to my knowledge, I don't think there was ever a conversation as to how I was going to pay for college, right? Because one, I grew up in a single parent household. So it was just my mother and I, and she only worked one job. So our finances was already very, very tight.
Yeah.
So to have a separate saving for college, not too sure how that was really possible at the time. And I don't really think that that was more so on her mind amongst all the other things. So I think it really set in probably my senior year when I was submitting the applications in high school. Oh, how are you going to pay for college? Well, you're going to have to get student loans and apply for financial aid. That was ultimately the only option, that I had. And even when I was in college, my guidance counselor didn't really talk about the entire college admissions process. And I come from a family of educators, but things were so different back in the day, and we just knew that we had to go. Financial aid just really wasn't a conversation on what the process was or how that was in the future, in the long run, and after college. So I just applied for financial aid and had loans, lots of loans, might I add. But it was never a matter of, okay, well, let's start saving now. I know some people that actually had to work to pay to go to school. I had classmates that were in school full-time, might I say, and a nursing student at that. And she had to work to pay for her tuition. Now, I'm grateful that my mother did not put that type of pressure on me, because a lot of parents can say, okay, you're at the age where you can get your working papers. For me, that was 14. Go ahead and start working, and the money that you save will go towards your education. My mother didn't do that. I willingly wanted to work at 14, but that's just because I love the finer things in life, right? So when I was working, I was buying me stuff. I wasn't thinking about saving for my education. But once I got into school, I said, oh, okay, now I see why it's important to start really saving early. And so before families, or not even families, because some people may not have a family, some people may just be on their own, what would you think would be the first step before they even start to save for college? Like, for example, if they have any type of debt, should they pay that off first? Should they start a retirement fund? Should they have an emergency fund? What should be the priorities that they should set financially first before starting to save for college?
So honestly, when it comes to like a starting point, the best thing that you can do for yourself is to create an overall financial plan. Like, so sometimes we try to say, okay, I need to fix this one thing, right? And when we say, hey, I just need to save for college, and that's the only thing that we do, we're doing ourselves a disservice, because in order for you to save efficiently and make sure your overall plan is correct, you need to also look at the other things as well. So you have to look at the debt and the emergency funds and the retirement plans. All of those things come together when it comes to saving for college. Because when you neglect one area, your financial plan is off. So you can't effectively save for college without looking at everything that it truly comes with. Because when it's time to send your child off to college and all you did was save, and then you're left with nothing, now the child is left to get the education and feel like they have to come back and look out for mom because they paid for this. And that's not a bad thing. Mm-hmm. But if we're going to look at an actual picture, then we want to look at everything, because we know that if we neglect one area and focus on another, then your plan is really, it doesn't come full circle. So I would say, honestly, look at everything. Look at your debt. Look at what you already have. Look at your 401k plan. What type of withdrawals or different things can you do for that? And I definitely don't recommend that, but in certain people, in certain situations, you have to do what you have to do. Of course, make sure that your child is applying for scholarships. Make sure that they're looking at grants, things that are free. Like sometimes we don't even look into those things until it's too late, when we figure out we don't have enough money.
Right.
So it's like, let's look at that a year in advance though. Look at scholarships a year in advance, so we can say, when this comes back around, I know that it opens on March 16th last year. So I know that next year is going to be around that time. I'm going to put something on my calendar to say, go to this website. They give out scholarships. You can be first in line. Even all of those things. So we want to make sure, like I said, we're looking at everything. So before you can start a college fund, I would say create an overall financial plan. And that includes everything.
So with the financial plan, how do you create one? Is this something that you had to have a financial advisor for? Is this something that you can do on your own? And what does that plan actually truly really consist of?
So a true overall financial plan takes everything into consideration. And I'll break that down for you. So it would be a budget. It would be your 401k, your retirement plan. It would be debt management. It would be savings, whether that's for a college fund and your emergency fund. So when you're putting that whole entire plan into place, you need to think about all of those things, and not just think about college. Think about the quality of life you truly want to live. So we're not just thinking about one particular thing. So we have to think about it overall. And then when we put all of those things together, that becomes a true financial plan, where you're protecting your assets and you're setting a foundation for everything that it comes with. So it's creating a plan for each financial step and putting it all together. And when you put all of that together, it allows you to see a bigger picture of how much you can truly save for college. Because at the end of the day, we may not be able to say, if I can only save $800 a month, I probably would love to give the whole $800 towards this college fund, but I also have to think about myself. Right. If I pay this, how do I take care of home? How do I take care of the other kids that I also have, right? So we have to be realistic with how much we can actually put away for that. Let's think about debt and all of those things too. Sometimes you pay off some debt and then it's like, okay, well, maybe I'll continue to save, because I'm not just going to just pay off my debt and say after that's done, let's go over here. Right. Because you never know what can happen. So at this point, you're just like, let me continue to save and pay off this debt. And then when this debt is paid off, if I was paying $150 a month in debt, that automatically goes over here. And maybe not the whole 150, but maybe you say 100 is going to go towards this college fund and 50 will go towards my emergency fund. So you have to continue to have a plan. If you don't have a plan, it will fail. Because if you don't tell your money where to go, it will tell you for you. Okay? You'll wake up and it'll be done.
That is true. Now,
so you have to plan.
That was a lot of advice that you just gave for a plan. I know for me, that was a lot. And so since the plan consists of so many different things and in different areas, how can someone decide, okay, I think I probably need to see a financial advisor, how do you determine that the clients you take on could actually really utilize your service, and knowing that they may be a single parent, or they may not have a lot of money, but they really need the help? How can you assist them with the small budget that they have?
So there's a couple of things that you need to do. I won't lie to you. As a financial coach for clients and for small businesses, what I do, can you do it yourself? Absolutely. I won't lie to you. Yes, you can. But what I offer you is expertise advice, and then a partner that's willing to walk you through it so that you're not missing steps. So of course, when you do things on your own, it takes a while. It's a learning curve. You're learning it and you're trying to process it and you're trying to do it.
Right.
So let's think about it. You can learn anything that you possibly want to learn. If you wanted to, if your car was to break down today or tomorrow, the person that's fixing your car had to learn something, right? So if you wanted to learn it to fix your car, you could. So the thing of the matter is, people say, oh, well, I can't, they just cost so much. But what you're paying for is expertise advice, and then maybe some schooling that they maybe had, or even from their experiences. So like I said, I won't lie to you and say it's something that you can't do, but it'll take you longer to do it because you're doing it by yourself and you're learning as you're going. Right. So how do you determine if you need someone like me? It's too much. Like you said, it's so many different parts. Do I even know? Like, maybe I was only thinking about debt and maybe my savings account in a budget. I wasn't thinking about retirement. I wasn't thinking about maybe life insurance or annuities and setting a foundation to make sure that my assets are protected. I stopped at debt, savings,
Right.
and a budget maybe. And then I create a budget, but I don't really follow the budget, right? So you got that going on too. So you know that you need a financial coach when you know you need accountability.
Right.
You know that if someone's not walking with you, maybe it's something that you probably will not keep up with, right? So that's another thing too. That expertise that's walking with you that will call you and say, hey, it's been a couple of weeks. I need you to come back on in and check back in and see what's going on. And I also know that it can be tough for some single moms. So it's like, yes, it's definitely tough to be able to have to pay for something and try to save in the midst. And I totally understand that. And in the beginning of my business, I felt everyone's pain. I tried to help everybody that I possibly could. And so usually for me, I still try to help anyone. If anyone sets up a call with me and after that they can't afford my services or it's something that they can't do at the moment, I'm going to allow you to walk away with something. I may not walk with you step by step, but I will give you the steps that you need to and any type of resources or documents that I can possibly give you. So that is what I can do for someone who possibly can't, go through with the services. And everyone's not like that. Some people are going to say, hey, you can't afford me, then sorry.
Right.
But I always try to be like, okay, even if you can't afford it, this is what we talked about in our call. And I think this will be really important for you. And I'll even check back in with you in a couple of months, whether you paid me or not, just because it's a passion of mine and I love what I do. I love what I do. So that's basically what you can do. And that's how you know if you need a coach, because you need accountability. You don't really know everything that goes into it. And you just want to do it the right way. Nobody wants to continue to waste time. If I'm already behind and my child is a year away from school and I'm trying to figure out a plan for them, I don't have time to waste, right? So we want to make sure that we're doing the best of, doing to the best of our abilities. And one thing that I will say is sometimes you do have to make an investment on yourself. It takes that to do that, I have to do the same thing in my business. So I know personally for me, I'm not really good with marketing. And I try to always download stuff and do stuff. And I'm just like, look, I can't do it. I'm going to pay for a coach. Like, I'm just going to have to pay for a coach. And it's something that I'm going to have to do. And that was something that I had to do this year, which was invest in myself. Because I'm telling you, investing in a coach that's going to help you save money is more worth it in the long run, because you continue to waste time and try to figure it out, knowing that you're not going to be accountable, knowing that you're not going to follow your budget. At that point, how much money are you even wasting? at that point you could have paid for the financial coach
You're
to
absolutely
help
right.
you along the way.
You're right.
So you have to weigh that out. Like, you got to think about small investments for a bigger investment in the long run. And that is the best way that you can go about doing anything, right? Because you, like I said, you think about all of those, all the months that you go by. Sometimes a client will come to me a year later and I'm like, all of that could have been wiped out, or at least 50% of that could have been wiped out had you just, came on board. But I totally understand, being a little, leery in the beginning, because let's think about it. In our Black and brown communities, this is not something that we usually have, right? A financial advisor really isn't, it's not really for us. It's not talked about.
Right.
It's not something that we normally see. When we see somebody come to our house doing something with money, it's the taxes. That's about it, right? We saw that,
Absolutely
but
right
we didn't
about
see
that.
someone. We didn't see someone really going through our money and making sure that we were making good decisions and making sure we were on the right track for our goals. We didn't see that, so I can understand the hesitation. But I'm just here to let you know that I'm telling you the investment is worth it. I don't take anyone's money unless I feel like they're a good fit. And even though you sign a contract with me, if it's not working out, I'll let you go.
I like that.
Because I want to make sure that this is a good relationship for both of us,
Right. Right.
So it's all about that. And you just got to make sure that you're ready to show up and you're ready for the tough love.
Right. And financial literacy is really important, especially in our community. It's not talked about often. And I think that's one of the reasons why I wanted to do this live with you, is to really make people aware. Because like I said in the beginning of our conversation, I've spoken to a lot of people and they're like, oh, well, I'll pass this on to someone that I think needs your service. Okay, but you do have a child that's in 9th grade, right? Unless you already have their college tuition saved. And I think a lot of people just don't realize that they need your help until they get to that point. They're like, oh man, I do need assistance. And being in the situation that we're in now with the pandemic, I don't think really helps, because we're trying to figure out how to budget. Where should the money go? And I know sometimes for myself, I'll sit here and say, okay, so I got this I got to do. I have this I got to do. But I want to do this. So I'm going to go ahead and do this anyway. And it's like, no, Torri, you probably should apply the money here. We're human, right? But
yeah, absolutely.
You have to think about the future. And education is so very important, especially now. So try at least making an attempt to save. You may not be able to save all of your tuition. And that was my next thing. When it comes to budgeting, we're not just talking about tuition. We're talking about fees. We're talking about room and board. We're talking about books. We're talking about traveling. We're talking about a meal plan. We're talking about going back and forth from home to school during the holidays, the breaks, whatever that is.
And you got to take your stuff.
We're talking about exams. Forget being in college, but let's talk about saving for the SAT, the ACT, the GRE, the MAT. All these things cost. Yes. So when we think about saving, it's not just the tuition, how much it costs for a class. There's so much more that comes along with that. So how do we put that in our college saving budget? How do we put all that together?
Well, of course, you definitely need to include it, because your pocket will get hit regardless of whether you include it or not, right? So it's going to happen regardless. So you just, like I said, you have to really be strategic. So sometimes we think of we think of the overall, just like the big picture, and we have to get into the details. That's why it's so important to talk to someone or to have someone who's been through something like this, because you will be able to, so talk to someone like you that's going to say, hey, all of these things go into it. I may not know the money portion of it, or I may be able to help you with just the FAFSA. But what I do want you to do is consider all of these things. That's why an expert is needed. Whether you're just attending webinars or attending different sermons, like the information is out there. That's one thing I can honestly say. Sometimes you have to look for it sometimes, but it's there. So
Right.
when you're thinking about just going to school, you have to really go into the details. And if you didn't go to college, talk to someone else who did go to college. What are some of the things that you're doing? Maybe hit up EduConfidence and say, hey, you have the experience with talking about college admissions and getting kids into school. I need to know more about that.
Right.
I have 2 kids that are going to go to school. So sometimes if the information doesn't come to us, we can't just say the information's not there. I promise you it's there.
Right.
I promise you it is.
Sable said, research is imperative. You have to do
Yes.
your research. And like you said, Carolyn, there are a lot of free webinars. I know for me with my business, I always wanted to continue to grow. I have attended so many webinars that are free, or the lives. This is a perfect example, a live. We're giving you this information for free. We're telling you at least the basic necessities that you need for the college admissions process, but more so for the financial aspect of it.
Yes.
That is free right there. Now, you may not get a complete, customized, detailed plan on what you need to do step by step, but you're getting the general information for what you need to do. And it will save you so much stress. I'm going to tell you, my college experience was a little stressful. I remember, I got to watch what I say. I remember I started my first year. Financially, I was okay.
Okay.
Then I remember my second year, I transferred. I think I might have been okay financially wise, but then something happened with my financial aid and it was like put on hold. I was in panic mode because I'm like, okay, how am I going to pay for the next semester? I can't enroll unless I have the money for it. And so you start to panic. A lot of times because you panic, you shut down completely. You get very discouraged and you don't want to move forward. What happens then? Students drop out or they take a gap, a very long gap, right? Or they just like, you know what? College isn't for me because of that bad little experience, and they go straight into the workforce. So reaching out to a professional and an expert is the best thing. And even if it's just for a consultation, you may not be able to pay for the services, but during a consultation, you always get general information, in my opinion, from doing consultations with a lot of my clients, or me going for a consultation for something. You always get information. And like Sable said here, scholarships. I did not apply for any scholarships in undergrad and grad, might I add. Why? Because I felt like it was too much work. I'm like, oh my goodness, I gotta write an essay for this, for that. I didn't want to do that. So guess what? That's why I have student loan debt now, right? It's because I didn't take the time to apply for the scholarships and start in advance, because that's one of the services that I offer is an intensive scholarship search for clients. You can apply for a scholarship your junior year. You don't have to search for it, write it down, put it in your phone the date that it will open for the next year. There are thousands of scholarships out there for high school juniors. So you can start early. And even when you're enrolled in college, if that wasn't a full ride, you still need to be applying for scholarships until you are finished with school. But it takes work. College is not easy. We all know that. But if you want to avoid the student loan debt, you just have to invest your time into a lot of things. The research is one, and saving is another thing. Instead of buying the Jordans, I'm gonna tell you, I remember there was a time I would see people on long lines for Jordans or for a certain sneaker, right? But yet they complain about never having money, can't pay their bills, and can't pay for their class. Newsflash, you could, but your priorities are all messed up, right? You have to fix that, because college is not cheap. Now, if budgeting is an issue for you, or more so saving is an issue for a 4-year institution, maybe you need to think about a community college, a 2-year.
Yes.
And it's so big now. Honestly, I wish that I started at a community college in
Entrance.
2003, right? I wish that I
Mhm.
started there, but way back then, starting at community colleges were like, well, you couldn't get into a 4-year, so that's where you're going, right? So I knew that I had to go to a 4-year, but down the line, that's really not the case. It's saving you money. And if you really, really think about it, you knock out all of your general education requirement courses in 2 years, right? You leave with an associate's degree, and classes, you're saving hundreds to thousands for a community college course versus a 4-year course. And then, not to mention, if you use financial aid with your Pell Grant, more than likely you can utilize all of that at a community college, so that all you have to worry about then, if you decide to transfer to a 4-year, is the loans or the scholarships. But you won't have to jump right into it if you start off at a community college. So we really have to change our mindset as to how we go about things, and also take summer classes. Sometimes summer classes may be cheaper, or you can, if you are enrolled into a 4-year, you can take them at a community college. So you really have to just change things up. But remember that planning involves a lot. Like you said, it's not just your personal planning, it's your education, but there's a lot that comes with the education piece. And with EduConfidence Consulting, we help you understand the entire admissions process. Because sometimes when I say that, people look at me like, well, what do you mean the admissions process? I'm like, it's beyond just submitting the application, right?
Yes.
And paying a fee. It's way beyond that. It starts off with the planning, the research, the saving while you're young, even deciding what type of high school you're going to be going to, realizing that when you go from middle school to high school, the level of courses change. They're harder courses. Then realizing, oh, I have to do community service, right? So there's so much that comes into play when it comes to the college admissions process. But we have to really think about the finances, because that's probably going to be the biggest and more challenging thing you'll have throughout your 4 years, besides passing your classes and just
Yeah.
being an adult and being on your own and away from home. That's probably the biggest thing. And so, besides saving, what are some type of resources that students can use to decide how much they need to save? Like, they may say, okay, you know what, I'm going to start off at a 2-year. I'm going to go to community college first because that's cheaper. But still, how do I find out how much the tuition, the fees, all of that is? Where do students go for that?
They go to EduConfidence Consulting. Let's be honest. Sometimes there are going to be some programs out there where you can kind of go online and do some research, but sometimes you get bits and pieces, right? Let's just be real. Sometimes you can do your research and you got to piece stuff together. I have to do that all the time. I might have to go this website and get a little something, and then I type in something a little bit different because I feel like it didn't give me everything, and then I take that and I put that together, and then I create a plan, and I'm like, okay, well, they had 7 steps and this one got 5 steps, but 2 of these steps in this wasn't on this one. So like, you're doing a whole bunch. So if you truly want a full picture, you have to go to someone that's going to give you that, because you don't know. But where you definitely need to make sure that you're starting is not even just with knowing like where to go to get a full picture, because there are a lot of, different websites and different things like that out there, but there's always different nuances that you just don't think about. You know what I'm saying? Certain people just don't think about. So for you, when you're thinking about that, you're thinking of the details, right? The details always matter. I tell people that all the time. Like, the bread and pudding is in the details. Like, believe me, it's in the details. And people say, oh, I just spent all my money and I don't know where it went. And I'm like, yes, you do.
Yeah, you
It's
do.
literally in details. Like, yeah, it is. And I'll pull your whole receipt apart. Like, if you went to, I went to Target. What did you get out of Target? See, Target have you in all these different little categories. You can get food, you can get them clothes, you can get this,
You
and
can
you
get
can
in a
just say,
lot of trouble at Target.
you
A
can get
lot
in a
of
lot of
trouble.
trouble at stores like Target and Walmart that serve
Mhm.
these multi-purpose things. But like I said, it's always in the little detail. And you probably be like, I came in there, I got groceries, but you got one item that probably cost you $45, and then your whole budget's all out of whack. And you're looking at your long receipt with all these groceries on there, and you forgot about that one product that cost you $45 or whatever you bought from there. So like I said, it's always in the details of what's going on, and you have to, like I said, look for the correct resources and make sure you look around. Like I said, like there's gonna be certain areas where you can go to find certain information and you feel like, okay, they have all of this, but I'm missing this one piece, right?
Right.
So when it does come to trying to make sure that you're setting a savings goal, one of the things that I can definitely tell you that will definitely, if you don't take anything else from this call, is that you need to bring your whole entire family together. This is not a conversation that you just have with yourself to bring your child to school, right? So if you are in a relationship, you're married, if you're not, you need to bring everyone together and have the conversation, right? To say, hey, where do you want to go? What is your plan? What are you trying to do? So even if you weren't going to school, let's just say you don't have young kids, you can't just make money decisions on behalf of your whole entire family without bringing everyone together.
Right.
That's the reason why there's a lack of financial literacy that goes on from generation and generation to come. And I'm not saying that you have to tell your kids that the water bill costs $155, but you do need to say, look, this is what we have going on when it comes to our finances, and this is how much I'm going to be able to save and put away. This is what we're working with, right? And because this is what I'm working with, what are you going to bring to the table? Now, if it doesn't mean job, it doesn't mean money. It means what you're going to bring to the table is that you're going to show up for school and you're going to make sure you get good grades and you're going to do what you have to do. And for some, you may not have that option. The option may be that your child may have to go to school to help you. That may be what's on the table. And if this is where you want to go and this is what you want to do, then this is what we're going to have to do as a family so that we can get you to where you need to be. So when you bring everybody on the same page, and you're not only are you teaching them financial responsibility, but you're also setting them up so that they know how much tuition actually costs and what school you're actually going to go to. Sometimes we go to school just because, such and such went there and it was fun and I had fun at homecoming. No, we're not doing that. What do you want to do? Hey, it happens. But
I turned that around, but you are correct.
it happens, and that's okay. But we're going to learn with the next one, okay? So now it becomes, what do you want to go to school for? Right. And will that school even serve your purpose? Right. Let's think about what you're trying to do. And let's think about what your future actually entails. And let's just say maybe you don't know. And we're just going to say we're going to put X amount of money away. But like I said, it just creates a dialogue. It creates a conversation for kids to ask certain questions. And honestly, I really, really hope that they come to appreciate you that much more. So that's the reason why you want to make sure you bring everyone in. Bring in the kids that are able to have that conversation and really try to see what that overall plan really looks like. So when you're putting things into perspective and basically saying, hey, this is what needs to be done, then this is what needs to be done. And everything is going to look different. Like I wish, and I know I say this all the time, but I can't necessarily tell you what the answer is for you and your family. I will have to look and dig into the details. Like I said, I'm going to have to look at what you actually have going on, where this person is deciding to go to school. And if that's the case, if you started too late, like you said, a community college may be the best way for you to be able to save up some money to be able to afford for this child to go to college and do a 4-year school, maybe in 2 years. So maybe the first 2 years is not an option. So like I said, you really want to make sure that you're including the whole entire family, getting everyone on the same page, and literally just saying, this is what I have going on, and this is what the future looks like, and how are we going to do this as a family?
Right. and your family should be your support system, but there are a lot of people that don't have family or that really are on their own. So that's where you and I come in, right? We would
Mm-hmm.
be your support system. You only need one person, right? And so that's really important information I think you just provided to everyone, is really everyone coming together, and
Mm-hmm.
then trying to find out what would be realistic at the moment as
Yeah.
well, because sometimes people have a really big picture but it may not really work for them at the moment, but maybe more so in the future. And if you don't have
Yeah.
someone to assist you, that's why you come to EduConfidence, so that we can help you with a plan and really sit down and figure out what your goals are,
Absolutely.
the types of schools that you should be looking at, the types of schools that can be in your budget. All this plays a role for when you choose your top schools that you want to
Yes.
attend. And so people don't really, think about that. Like you said, they go to school because their friends is going there. I did that because I just didn't want to go to school by myself. But it
Yeah.
happens, right?
Yeah,
There's some
absolutely.
people that want to go to school, go to a certain college because they see all the parties and the Greek life and the this and the that.
Mm-hmm.
They're not really thinking, right? So we need to really put our thinking cap on, and we need to come together with our family, if there is a family that we need to come together with, or just to come together with ourselves more than anything, to really
Yes.
set a plan, because ultimately it's your educational goal, right? I realized that everyone is not going to be a part of your journey, or provide the support that you need them to give,
Yeah,
right? I
absolutely.
learned that as a
Mhm.
business owner. Whether it's family, friends, whoever it is, not everyone is going to support you how you think that they should. So ultimately it's something that you have to do, because it's your job, it's your business, and it's your educational journey. So you recommended how to start to save and how to set a goal. How
Mhm.
do people really do that now during the pandemic?
So now during the pandemic, you need to create a full financial plan for sure, like for sure, for sure. And I know you're like, oh, we're in a pandemic. I can barely make ends meet now. Like that's just too much. Have the conversation, schedule a consultation with me, at least have the conversation so that you can at least see that you're on the right track. you know but one of the best things that you can honestly do for yourself in the midst of this pandemic is making sure that you are tracking everything that comes in and everything that goes
Goes
out.
out.
Like that's literally a budget, right? That's literally what your budget is, everything that comes in and everything that goes out. One of the things that I always teach my clients is people are good at making budgets. That's not a problem. You get your spreadsheet, you write it down on a piece of paper, and you say, hey, I got, $3,000 coming in, and my light bill is this, my rent is this, my mortgage is this. You write it all down. The problem with your budget is that you do not go back and see what you actually did. So it's easy to say, this is how much I'm going to spend in each category, but did you do that?
Right.
Did you actually do that? So you have to go back at the end of the month and say, did I follow this budget? And did I do it accordingly? Did I create a home for every single dollar? Or did it tell me what to do? Did life start to happen and then I just started to do my own thing and say, hey, you know what? It don't matter. I already messed up, or whatever the case may be. But you have to go back at the end of the month and decide what's going to happen. Now, for me, I don't necessarily do end of the month. I do every single week, because I know that if I need to make different decisions or do different things, I don't want to wait till the end of the month to figure out
Right.
that I needed to get something right. Now I got to figure it out at the end of the month and try to change something next month. A whole 30 days went by.
Right. Just like you don't
You
need to
can
wait for
correct
the
your
new
decision.
year to set your budget.
You
Start
don't.
now.
You don't. So that's the main thing that you really need to do, is really make sure like you really know where your money is going, because in the midst of the struggles and everything like that, that's when you really need to be like, hey, I'm only going to spend this on this. You have to create the discipline. It's not going to come natural. It's not going to come easy. I don't always jump for joy to sit down on Sunday and look at my budget. And I do this for a living. So
And I think you are
imagine
quite
someone else.
disciplined. I think you're disciplined because I saw your little video on when you went into the store and some items that you saw that you didn't need, right?
Yeah.
And you put it down. At least I
Yeah.
hope you put it down. You said you put it
They
down,
went
right?
down. They put them,
We
they were
need
down.
to practice that more. And I think because we're in the global pandemic and we can't really be free and go outside like we want to,
Mhm.
the internet is like not our friend right now. It's the worst thing
No.
that we can really do, especially Amazon, because we're bored and we can't do things outside. We're bringing more inside. I cannot tell you the amount of boxes that have come into my house and for what, right? If
Yeah.
I mean seriously, if it's not groceries or the basic necessities, why are we doing it? That can be money saved towards our education, in all honesty. Even if it's $20 or $3, people don't realize it's something. Even if it's $1, that's $1 more that you could save. But because we're going through a challenging time right now, we're spending money. But we got to
And
realize,
Amazon boxes can go back too. I know sometimes we
oh,
think
for
because we bought
sure.
it online, and it's easy to put something down in the store. It's easy to do that.
But when you got to
But
ship things back, it's a little more
it
challenging.
makes it real, but they go back. I did that the other day. I said, hey, what did I buy? I think it was like a microphone or something. And then I found something cheap. And I was just like, you know what, Carolyn? You're not even doing that right now. You don't need this right now. I don't care. Sometimes you have to realize that the sale, just because it's a sale, don't mean it was for you. I
Right,
don't care.
right.
It wasn't a sale for you at this time because you know what? When it is your time, it'll probably be cheaper than that. You ain't using that. Why would you buy something that you know you're not going to need for 6 months because it was on sale? Okay, in 6 months, it's probably even cheaper. I
Right.
took that thing back to the store. Now, don't get me wrong. I do have some impulse, purchases and stuff, but I always have a come to Jesus moment. And the reason why I come to my come to Jesus moments a little bit quicker is because I look at my finances every week. So I'm going over that and I'm looking at that and I'm able to make those decisions a little bit more quickly. So now if you're looking at the end of the month and after everything has already happened, now you don't have this item probably for 20 days, grown attached to it. You didn't have it for 20 days or whatever the case may be. A couple days and I'm like, you know what? I shouldn't. Let me take that. Let me take this back or
Right.
let me do X, Y, and Z. But I actually am able to come to a better decision probably most of the time before I check out, before I get to, I get happy and excited. But when I get to pay, like, I'm the most cheap, like, most frugal person ever. So it's getting sat back down. It's like, okay, it was cute. It was nice when it was in my hand. But how much was this?
It
Twelve
has to
ninety
go back.
nine.
It has to go
Yeah,
back.
no, I wasn't supposed to pay no twelve
And
ninety
you'll
nine.
feel good. You'll feel good after. I know
I feel
ever since I
great.
started having your services, I have changed, and I'm gonna tell you how I've changed. Now, some people on this call may think differently, but I know that I've changed because I can have a whole bunch of things in my cart, and I get to the front, I'm like, you know what? I don't need this. Nope. Do I need this? It's only $5. But just because it's only $5, do you need it?
Do you
No.
need it?
There's times I walked in the store and walked out the store, and I'm like, wow, I'm growing. I'm really doing great because I was just saying it's only $5. It's only 10. It's only 20. But that adds up. That can be money that I could have been paying towards my
Imagine
school
only
loans.
paying, but think about it. Imagine only overspending $25 a day. Do you know how much that adds up to be?
That's a lot.
Exactly. In 4 days, you've already spent $100. Imagine going 7 days, 8 days, right? That's two. So imagine those little nuances that you think that is so small. Like I said, everything is in the detail. Like everything is in the detail. And that's why you have to make sure that you stay in the details. So yeah, there are probably going to be times where you give yourself a little leeway to be able to make purchases, but that has to be in your budget. And
Right.
if I ever overspend in one area, I take from another. I never just overspend in one area and just say, oh, I overspent. If I go to the grocery store and I need to buy certain things, or let's just say it's Thanksgiving, or if it's a different holiday, or I have to plan for something. So of course my groceries went up a little bit, but my grocery budget is my grocery budget for the month. So think about Thanksgiving. Of course, you spend a little bit more because you're making more food. But I don't say to myself, oh, I just overspent. No, I'm looking at the other areas. Okay,
Right.
I'm in the house. So how about if I'm gonna overspend here, I'm gonna take a little bit from here.
Right.
You know, so it's like in this pandemic, we honestly should be saving more. If you haven't lost your job, I totally understand that. But if you didn't have much change happen to you, you can't go anywhere. Imagine, you know how many brunch you saved yourself from? You know we like to go to brunch.
Right.
Do you know how much you saved yourself? So you just have to think about, literally, like I said, really looking at your budget, looking at exactly what comes in and what goes out. And then at the end of this month, or maybe the end of two, I would at least recommend every paycheck. If you get paid every 2 weeks, then look at what's going to happen, what you're going to pay out of these checks, and then how you did. So the key is going back, looking at what you did, and then making adjustments. Because if you continue to just keep spending and you don't know what you're spending it on and how you're spending it, you're going to continue to make the same mistakes.
Right. Now, you'll know what you're spending it on because there are apps that you can use for tracking.
Yes.
Carolyn, tell us about the apps that we can use to see exactly where our money is going.
So there's actually a lot, but the ones that I actually know that I've actually used, I would say Mint. You can use them. They are really good with tracking. And of course, most of these services, you can either use the free version or upgrade for like a Premier or a Pro package. Then you have, what's another one? Every Dollar.
Okay.
That's a really good one. That's by Dave Ramsey. And then you also have YNAB, which is YNAB, and that's You Need a Budget. And the good thing about them is they literally only allow you to budget for what you actually have in your account. So like that's really good too.
Can't go
You
outside of what you don't have.
You cannot go outside of that. And it was really, I know when I used it, because I just try to use different things just to kind of see how it works so I can like, you know, make recommendations to different people. But it was a little confusing at first because at first I didn't understand. I was just trying to make my budget. And I was just like, what is happening? So I have more than one account. So I attached just one account and it doesn't, you know, have much in it. And I was just like, why can't I just like, you know, I'm trying to budget for the whole month. And they was like, you only got $1,000. That's all you can budget for. And I'm like, but that's just the rent. So I couldn't understand. So that's the only thing I will tell you about YNAB is like, they definitely go off of how much money you actually have. So make sure you know, connect all of your accounts so that it can really give you a really good idea. Because I believe they have like a 30-day trial. And then after that, you have to pay for the service. And then my favorite is Tiller. And I love Tiller because it goes through all of the different categories. It allows you to see your money in so many different ways. And it is spreadsheet based, but it's all in Google Docs. So it makes it accessible. You can like share it with a partner or a friend or someone that's going to hold you accountable. And you can just literally go in there and just see your money in different ways. Like you can download a debt template and all these different things. And all of these accounts do all of these, not accounts, all of these apps allow, you have to put your information in. And I know sometimes that can be a little bit frustrating for people.
But you got to put the work in. You got to put the work in.
Because if you're not going to do that, then you need to get with pen and paper. And I'm telling you, if you think right now you don't got the time to do that, but you're definitely not going to have the time with no pen and paper. Right. So because even with that, after you connect your account, you still have to go in and say, hey, I went to Target and I spent this on this and this on that. Like you still have to go and categorize so you can see what your categories are. How much are you spending in these different areas? So like I said, I like Tiller because it allows you to see your money in a lot of different ways, all in one location. And I am a numbers girl, so maybe that's the reason why I like the spreadsheets a little bit better. But it works for me. It works for most, for all of my clients. They love it. They love using it. So those would be my recommendations as far as saving apps or just budgeting apps, honestly.
Okay. Now, I know earlier on the call you mentioned a 529 savings plan. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
So I have my little handy dandy notes here because 529 plans, I'm going to try to explain it in the best way that I possibly can. But they are a little complicated, a little bit, just a little bit. And that's just because so one thing I can't stand is when you ask for information and they say, oh, it all depends. But I'm so sorry. It really does depend. It really does depend on your financial situation. It depends on the state you live in as well, because 529 plans are not set up the same way in different states, but you can get one in different states because of course of where you go to school. So like the reason why I say it depends because it's tax involved. It's literally like putting your money into some type like an investment, like a 401k, honestly. So you putting your money in these type of accounts, your money can actually grow and work for you, but there's also cons and there's pros and cons to the situation. So there's so many different nuances to it, and it depends where you are. And as far as saving for your children to go to school. So if you're kind of late in the game and you're trying to figure it out, some things will matter to you and some things won't. But I will go over, and not only do I want to go over 529, I also added in another account that would be good as well, just for people to know. And so I'm going to be looking down, but that's just me looking at my notes. Okay. So there's two types of 529 plans, right? There is the prepaid tuition plan, where that's like if you know your child's going to this school, and that's probably like some legacy type stuff because look, I don't know where my kid's gonna go. I can't make those type of decisions for them. but the prepaid tuition plan allows parents to purchase a portion of their child's tuition years ahead, but at the price that it's at right now.
Oh,
now that's good.
Wow.
Right. So you have that. So you're basically locking in tuition rates. Like whatever it is right now, that's what I'm paying now. I don't care if they go to school, 15 years from now. Whatever it is right now, that's what they end up paying. So the other type is an investment plan with tax benefits. And you do earnings on the plan, but they're not subject to federal income tax. And in many states, there are some state tax breaks that you can get, but it all depends where. And every state will at least sponsor at least one of them, but most states have both of those 529 plans. The other plan is a custodial account, right? So before I even get into custodial account, the 529 plan, the money stays with the parent until that child goes off to school. The custodial plan, that does not happen. So you're literally saying this money is going to go to this child. So you don't have control when you do it in a custodial plan. Okay. I just want to make that difference. So there's two different accounts for them, and that's the Uniform Gift to Minors Act, and Transfer to Minors Act. And both of these are deposited into an account with the custodian who oversees the assets. So in many states, children are not allowed to own securities and other different things. So the custodial account provides a way for them to benefit from the assets without controlling them, if that makes sense. So like I said, so if I got my child a custodial plan, they don't have to go to college and they can do what they want with it. Like you can't be like, oh, if you're not going to school, then you ain't getting my money.
Right.
You can't do that with a custodial plan because it's theirs. They can do whatever they want with it. On a 529 plan, the money stays with the parent. So that's the difference between the two, basically. So it's like control, no control. So, either you trust your child, you better know your children. You know your child. Or they just going to take this money and run off and do whatever they want with it.
Or maybe know your parents, too, because things happen. Okay. Things happen.
Exactly. So both the 529 and the custodial plans are used to save for college, of course. But the 529 plans are limited to college spending. The custodial account is not limited to college spending. So if the parent withdraws money from the 529 plan for a purpose other than paying for college, then it's taxed. You get taxed on it. So it's not like some people say, oh, well, if my child don't go to school, then, I just lost all my money. You don't lose your money. You do get taxed on it, unfortunately, because you're taking out for something other than college. So that's why some people are kind of a little leery, especially with the new day and age. A lot of people, they want to go straight into entrepreneur. The generations that's coming up behind us, I don't know how these jobs are going to survive because these people are not trying to go to work. Okay? Like, for real. What are they? Gen X? Is that what they're called?
I think.
I know I'm a millennial and I'm at the very end of it.
Right.
But I think it's Gen X. They not going. I don't know what's going to happen because it's something in the water with them. They not trying to go to no job. They be looking like, why would you stay? Because I need to work. Right. Because I need to pay my bills. Like, they look at you like, why are you there? So we just have to pray for that generation because we don't know what's going on with them. So that's why you need to be careful with these plans and your children. Know your kids. Listen to what they're saying to you because some of them probably are going to be doing other things. And if you're okay with that, then you're okay with that. But you just have to make sure that you plan accordingly to what you're trying to do. But once assets are deposited into the custodial account, parents can serve as custodians, but they cannot withdraw funds for their own use. Now, you don't put all this money in here. You can't touch it. Okay? So that's one of the differences between a custodial account. But the good thing is for a custodial account, they can use that money. Let's just say they really do want to be an entrepreneur and they want to try something differently or whatever the case may be. They can use that money towards that they're able to do. But you don't get as much tax benefits from a custodial account as you usually do from a 529 plan. So those are differences between the two. And like I said, those are the main differences. Of course, there's so much more that you can pros and cons to it, but most of the time, it really just depends on where you are with your child, what you feel like they're going to be doing, and different things like that. I'm an advocate for education. Don't get me wrong, you can learn anything, but I feel like it's not even just the education that you get when you go to school. Honestly, you get a community of people and different things, and some of my best relationships have come just because I went to college with somebody or knew somebody who knew somebody else who knew somebody else. That's how I met Torri. Okay? That's how I met you, So it's just those relationships that you're able to build. And even nowadays, like, you can literally go to school for business management. You can go, well, that was always the case, but you can literally go to school for entrepreneurship.
Right.
Like, that's a major. So if that's something that you want to do, at least you'll still be ahead of the game because, to tell you the truth, even though I went to school for accounting, I'm now learning how to be an entrepreneur. Maybe I would have went to school for accounting and had a minor or maybe an extra major in entrepreneurship. So, like, there's benefits to it. Like I said, I'm definitely an advocate for education. I'm not an advocate for going broke for education. So there's different ways that you can do it. Right. But I'm an advocate for it. So like I said, those are the main differences between the two. And like you literally have to know what your situation is. If you feel like, I don't really know how anyone can confidently just pay for a school for their child. Like, that plan, I don't know. That's probably Harvard, Yale students, you know what I'm saying? Where they just like, look, that's where you going, and I don't want to hear nothing else. Like, those are those type of kids. Like, this is where I went, this is where you going, NYU, that's where you going. Right. Because no, any other way, I can't really. We do
have an NYU. My aunt, Dr. Brenda Williams. I don't know if she's still on the call, but she did go to NYU many years ago. So we do have an NYU person on the call. I'm just curious, for all the people that's on here with us with children, have any of you started a 529 plan at all? I'm just curious, because I know some people said that they were familiar with it. But does anyone actually have one for their child? They may decide, if they do now, they may decide to make some changes.
Yeah.
We're getting a complete breakdown of it. But while they respond to that, Carolyn, are there any certain types of banks that we should go to open up these, like credit unions, anything like that?
I mean, of course, you can get most 529 plans at most banks. Of course, credit unions are really, really good because they're run by the members and the people who have the bank. So those are always good. Those are good options. But I always just say explore, because banks are changing all the time. Like, the rules that were now may be different later, especially with COVID happening. There's so many different things that are going on. So like we said before, you have to do your research. Those type of things when it comes to 529 plans, even the pros and the cons of what a 529 in a custodial account is, that could change next year. Tax laws could go into place and different things can actually change.
You
So
hear that,
we have
Sable?
to,
Things
we
can
have to make
change.
yeah. So like right now it may look like, a 529 plan is winning and then next year maybe the custodial account will change in a different way or maybe they'll put more regulations on a custodial account. Like I said, parents have no rights. If they put money into their account, the child is actually the beneficiary and after a certain age they get that money. So that could change. I mean, probably not because that's the difference between what the main two are, but maybe there'll be a little bit more regulations. Maybe the age goes out a little bit more. So there's so many different laws and different things that start to change, especially when we're about to have new leadership. We're about to have a new president come January. So when you have different people in office, they're always thinking about these things and
Right.
retirement plans.
Right.
Because before, when you got a 401k, after a certain age, you couldn't put into a plan anymore. Now there's no limit. There's no age. So that changed. That used to be the rule for years, and now there's no age. So you just, like I said, those are things that in the moment when you're trying to get that plan, that's what's going to be really effective for you.
Okay. So it seems like we have work to do, parents or students. There's a lot of work that needs to be done when it comes to planning for college with the financial aspect of it. It may not be that easy. However, you have to really put your best foot forward and you have to really do the work. Nothing is just going to be handed to you. Typically, nothing is going to be handed to you. And you really have to put the work into it and the research. And, that's why I'm here to do these lives on Educative Tuesdays. That's why it's called Educative Tuesdays, to really be able to educate you on a lot of things that you may have not thought about, you may have not known, or you know of it, but you're not really sure when you should start thinking about things. And financial planning is just so important. I mean, honestly, the advice that Carolyn gave this evening are things that you can do in your life in general. You don't have to go be applying for college and being in the college admissions process to start planning. I probably would utilize this information now more than ever since we are in a pandemic. Saving is really important. And like she said, I think now you probably could save more than what you would normally have to, especially if you're able to work from home and you drive. That's gas you're saving. Or if you have to buy a Metro card, that's money you're saving that you don't have to utilize for that. Buying clothes to wear to work, that's something you don't have to do. You just sometimes just put on the top and maybe a bottom depending. And you keep
That's
it
your
moving,
business.
right? So, there's a lot of ways to save. And I think she really gave a lot of information that honestly I wish I'd had when we were young. But we need more of the financial literacy in our African American communities because we really do not have access to this information, or we don't know how to access it because it's out there, right? We just don't know that it's out there for free, and we don't know where to go to get the information. So I'm gonna
I
open
want to
it up.
say,
Yes, go ahead.
before you say that, I wanted to say, I have a nephew. His name is Martez. I think he was on the live. He got off.
Uh-oh. I can hear you now. I can hear you.
Martez is a senior this year. And thank God. I mean, I went to college. I think all of my sisters, we both have a bachelor's and a master's degree. And regardless of how much education we have and going to school, that boy still be doing his own research. That boy be trying to tell us, well, I'm in this HBCU group and they said that they only, and I be, sometimes, me and my sister be like, boy, whatever, we went to school. I don't care what you heard about in that group.
Right.
But still, at the end of the day, right, I think it's really, really good that he's trying to seek the information. Like he doesn't even just rely on his mom and his aunties to be like, hey, this is where I'm trying to go. All he knows that he wants to go to a HBCU. He's probably going to be one of those, whatever cool school it is, that's probably where he's going to go. But he's actually trying to do the work and try to figure out what's going to actually work for him. And this is somebody who doesn't have to do the research, right? He don't have to do no research. He could be like, Auntie, how was Virginia State? How was it when you went here? That's all he got to do. Right. But he's still going out there getting the information and figuring it out.
You have to
and he's being proactive,
in your own education.
Exactly. And you can't imagine the type of doors that will open for you when you actually, so this is a child. He's 16. And he's going after it and trying to figure out where he's going to go and how he's going to do it. And he doesn't, and he has the means to not have to do so when you think about it, you know? So it's just like, if he has that type of dedication, us as parents have to be able to do the same, you know?
Right. I definitely agree. So I know we're at 8:15 now, even though we didn't have, a set time as we're going to end. When it comes to finance, you can go all day. And this is not boring. So normally when you associate things with finances, like, oh, this is boring. I think this has been a great conversation, very informative. And I hope that a lot of people that's on this call that have children or that have children that they have to go to college, right? Mm-hmm. That you actually start implementing these things now. But I want to open the floor up to anyone that has any questions. And I'm just going to scroll back really quick to see if we had any questions in the beginning. And I did want to do some shout outs. So we have a few VSU people on here. So we did have Amir, my cousin. Hello, Amir.
Fellow
Trojan alum. And let's see what we have. Oh, so my cousin Brittany was on here, and she already has a son, and she just had twins. So Britt, you need to start saving big time, okay? Because you have 3 kids that will be going to school, so you need to get these plans in order now. Sacrifice was one thing that was mentioned a lot throughout the chats, and that's something that you have to do, whether you're the parent or the child. You need to make sacrifices for things that you truly want or truly need, rather, and that would definitely be your education. Let's see.
I think I did see a question about, I can't find it now.
Oh, staying in state. So one person mentioned my mother, of course. She mentioned staying in. Hey, Mom, staying in state where you live is a good place to start. I agree. Besides the community college, going in state is definitely another great start with your education. Start in, to be honest with you, because typically, the tuition is cheaper. And I say that because when I transferred from Virginia State, I went back to school in New York, but I went to a private Catholic school. So although it was in-state,
it's private.
It was still out-of-state tuition. So that definitely is really good advice, is to also start in-state as well. And you have to do your research on these things, because sometimes just because it's in-state, that doesn't mean that it's going to be cheaper. It really does just depend. Sable, if I could do it all again, I have no college debt. I think we all.
I am with you, Sable. Yes, Sable was dropping a lot of good hints in the chat the whole time.
She sure was, and no one wants to have college debt. I know this now, how much I owe, and then I know I heard that with Biden coming in, he may take away a certain amount. It depends on the type of loan. That's here nor there, but if I can do it all over, I definitely would too, because that would have saved me money now as an adult, all that I have to pay back. And yes, there is so much money available, and that's where the scholarships come in, guys. There is so much free money out there, but you have to apply for the scholarships. And I have a really, really good service that helps you with searching for scholarships. And it's not just searching for scholarships, but scholarships that fit you, your unique personality, what you're looking for in a school, the type of person that you are, the type of affiliations that you're a part of, or your parents. the money is out there and you have to start early. So no one can say that they can't afford it. You maybe not be able to afford to pay for college out of your own pocket, but there is definitely money out there. You just have to search for it and you have to apply for it, and you can't stop. Just because you do not receive a scholarship for an application you submitted and you were denied, that's okay. There's thousands and millions more for you to apply for, and you keep on doing it until you complete your degree. I have to tell you that. Let's see. Oh, this is another good one. Tanya, who is also an educator, work for a company that has tuition reimbursement.
Absolutely.
Great.
It comes
advice.
with some strings.
It does.
Comes with some strings. But that's amazing. Yes. I have a sister who she only goes to school if she can pay for it herself, or she gets tuition reimbursement. Like, she has legit paid I mean, I didn't get that, you know what I'm saying? But it's all right. But even to this day, she has a bachelor's and 2 master's degrees, no debt. Like, she has literally paid cash.
Oh, God bless her. I tell you, that's how it should be. I know one thing. I said, if I get my doctorate degree, which I've been thinking about, my job has to pay for it, right? So I've been inquiring this past 2 weeks about it, because I know we had a hiring freeze, and then we also we're not doing the tuition reimbursement at the moment for budgeting purposes, which I think is a good thing, because people are able to save their jobs. So they didn't let go of people, and they didn't, reduce their salary, but they stopped hiring and they stopped the tuition reimbursement. But that is definitely something to think about. When you go for a job, it's so much more beyond, oh, I just like the type of work. The benefits is something you need to think about. Even when it comes to the health insurance, that's something you have to think about as well. So that was really good information. And yes, we know Target is a lot of our weaknesses for sure. That's just, I'm trying to see, is there any discipline? Yes. Like Carolyn said in the beginning, you could set up a plan, but you have to stick with it and you have to follow through. And even if you get off track, you can still come back. You can still come back, always. And
budgeting doesn't stop. Yes, like, budgeting doesn't stop because you start making good money and you start doing better. Like, millionaires still stick to a budget. They just do it a little bit differently. It may not look like sitting down at the table looking over it. They just hire somebody to do it. But they stick to a budget more than anyone else. So, like, get it out your head. Like, a budget is not just for broke, middle-class people.
Right.
It's not.
Right. So my mother said, get crazy, good grades, and full ride.
There you go.
Smart thinking. If you make sure that your child stays on track with their grades, let's be clear, that's not guaranteed, right? So we can't keep that in our head, but that would definitely contribute to a higher possibility of getting a full ride for school, for sure. So I don't see any other questions. So Carolyn, what I'm going to do is I'm going to drop down my website on how people can find me and my services and the events that I have. And then also I want you to tell everyone, and also drop down your information on how they can find you, because they don't know that you are miles away. You are all the way in Texas, right?
Yes, I live in Houston, Texas, but all of my services are virtual, either through Zoom. So you can get in contact with me by just going to my page, Harvesting Wealth, on Instagram and on Facebook, Harvesting Wealth LLC, and then my website is harvestingwealthllc.com. I just dropped it in the comments section. So so you can get in contact with me, schedule a consultation. It's on my website, totally free. Book a time with me. Let's chat. Let's see what's going on with everything. But even though I'm not on the East Coast, I'm very, very much available to you. All you have to do is just schedule a session with me.
And I can attest to that, because she was always available to me. And also, one thing on my website, which is EduConfidence.com, and to spell it, that's EduConfidence. I have a section called resources. Carolyn is listed underneath my resources page. I like to have holistic people on my resources page that I think if anyone just happens to browse my website, they'll say, oh, you know what? I do need a financial advisor or an accountant. They can find a reputable, hardworking, caring, and passionate person listed on my page. And so she is listed on there amongst other people. The last live we had another VSU Trojan alum, Erica Shorty, with her life coaching. She's also listed on there as well. So I have a lot of great people listed on my resources page. And like I said before, I'll keep on saying it. There's no one on here that I bring thus far that I have not utilized their service, and I've been successful with. And Carolyn is definitely one of them. I think I probably do need to set up a session with you probably for the new year to get my budgeting on track for the new year. But if you guys have any questions, you can always reach out to us through our website or through our Instagram. And my Instagram name is EduConfidence Consulting, and also I have a Facebook, which is EduConfidence Consulting. And we're also on, you're on LinkedIn, right? I think I follow you on LinkedIn.
I'm not on
No,
LinkedIn.
you're not? You sure?
I need to tap into that.
I thought I saw you. Okay, well, she'll get her LinkedIn page together.
I sure will.
But I am also on LinkedIn and Twitter, although I'm not that proficient with Twitter for some odd reason. But this was a really great live. I think it was really informative, and hopefully we can definitely get you back to talk about a specific topic in financial planning when it comes to the college admissions process. And we enjoyed having everyone. Anything else you want to say before we end this call?
I do want to say that the new year is coming up, and I'm actually going to be opening up a 6-week course where you can do an interactive live session with me. It's going to be limited seats. It's going to be starting in the middle of January. And I'm going to be if you just follow me on my platforms, I'm going to put up all the information, but it'll be like a 6-week course going over that financial plan, digging deep into that. So every week we'll meet for 2 hours, and we'll go through what that looks like for you. So it'll be one for personal finances, and then the other one will be for small businesses. So I'm going to be launching that out pretty soon. It'll be a 6-week course that you can just do with me and with a group of people, but it's going to be, like I said, interactive live, and you're going to be able to walk away with a lot of confidence, be able to walk into the new year and actually have a plan that you can actually stick to and follow through with.
That sounds amazing. And for me, if you guys have not already done so, my book is out, my ebook, Navigating Through the College Admissions Process, specifically focusing on time management. That is something very important that we have to focus on, and it has some really great information in there. And you can also purchase that through my website as well. So once again, we thank you all for joining us tonight, and don't forget to get started with that planning, whether it's for college or just in general, so that you don't have any debt.
Well, thank you for having me. I truly appreciate you and what you do. I definitely know that you have a passion for what you do. And I think it's awesome that you're able to provide this type of service because it's so needed, like seriously. So thank you so much for tapping into what you needed to tap into so that you can be a blessing for others.
Thank you so much, and I'll be chatting with you soon. Good night, guys.
Good night.
Bye.